Man, that Madam Web movie, can women really do that? Today we are looking at Thanos the End, issue 6. What do you reckon about the cover? Thanos in a void. I'll tell you what is terrible about it. Very odd to have a copy of this issue that doesn't look like it is dirty. This story is by Jim Starman, written and drawn by Jim Starman. It is about what you would expect. Thanos, he has once again achieved supreme power. He is now basically the universe itself. Of course, Thanos is a bad guy, so the rest of the universe, they reject him and are ready to try to battle the very thing that allows them to exist. We start by annoying me, because Thanos is quoting Milton. It is better to rain on your parades than rain on your wedding day. But really, what? Thanos has studied the literary history of a random planet that he sometimes is humbled by. The evil alien that mostly has contempt for any and all life. The guy who hates life so much that he is infatuated with its opposite number. He has time for art and culture. To quote Corey Feldman, yeah, right. I also hate Galactus Man understanding Fire Orc using the term Mickey Finn in Affinity Wars, issue 1. So the universe stands united against itself. There is something that bothered me the first time I read it. It is something that still maybe bothers me. I reckon it bothers most people. We ended the previous issue with all the Marvel heroes ready to fight Thanos. And we never really see that. The thing is, it's hopeless. Thanos is the universe now. He is as much as the source of all life and all existence. As cool as seeing Hulk fight Thanos would be, Thanos would just choose to not allow Hulk to hit him. What we have here, for the purposes of story, is resistance, because there is always a resistance. And while this is told through the superhero characters, a superhero fight would be nothing but pointless spectacle. With that said, we get a couple of pages of meaningless pissing contesting. Thanos displays his newfound power by one-shotting an Omega Titan, which surprises the higher up players like Galactus Man. He probably thinks that Thanos slipped the Omega Titan and Mickey Finn. My favourite bit is on this page. After seeing the extent of Thanos' power, the biggest of big powers coordinate a unified attack of their greatest strength to stop Thanos. The Tribunal, Santa Claus, Liam Neeson from Clash of the Titans, and Captain Marbles, the real one, Genis-Vell, He acknowledges that most of the superheroes are liable to be caught in the carnage. And Liam Neeson states, "Your compatriots have served well, Captain, but now this be a war of gods." I like that bit. I like that line. And now let's talk about the bad motherfucker himself, Thanos. Thanos was created by Jim Starlin in the early 70s. He first appeared in a random Iron Man issue, Iron Man 55. Thanos is a would-be conqueror and overall bad egg. He is in love with Lady Death. Not a woman, not a character. He is in love with the idea and the concept of death. He has often tried to exterminate galaxies or the entire universe to gain the favour of an abstract entity that doesn't care for him. It's a poetic idea, but it's also stupid because all Thanos has to do to win Death's attention is commit suicide. But hey, don't ask me about suicide in Thanos comics. Thanos is often the big bad in stories like Infinity Gauntlets, and he has predominantly been written by Jim Starman, and if anyone else tries to write him, Jim Starman will retcon it into being a faulty, defective clone of Thanos. I wanted to talk about Thanos because this is, by rights, what should have been Thanos' last ever appearance. Certainly the last time that Jim Starman ever should have written him. This resolves the character and finishes him. That's not to say that other writers, like Kevin Griffin or Dan Andy, didn't each write a good story with Thanos after this. But this should be it. This is called the end for a reason, you know. I like this bit. Thanos, despite being enlightened and at one with all, the part of him that is still Thanos, it gets perturbed and bitter over the assembled masses of his universe refusing to submit to his new station. The irony is that Thanos actually, despite this display here, he had come to understand that there was a terminal flaw within the universe, and he genuinely wanted to correct it and fix it for the betterment of existence. But in this petty fit of blind anger and all too human indignation, Thanos, he destroys the universe on a whim. Born from his annoyance at the universe opposing him, he tossed the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, the big abstracts, eternity and the tribunal and affinity, they put up a fight, but ultimately they, like everything else, were erased by a furious god. Now let's talk about why I love this story. This was one of the first collections I got. Well, not what you're seeing now. The version I had came out in 2005 and was called Thanos The End, not Marvel Universe The End. Back then, the only trade paperbacks I had were Invader's Classic Volume 1, and I had Volume 1 of Alpha Strike Classic. Actually, I think I had this before both of them. But the point being, trades were generally out of my affordability for ages. When you're a fucking teenager who has no source of income, you cannot afford trades. This was before I got any Captain Americas. It was before I downloaded scans. I was only reading New Thunderbells and maybe one random issue of something else if I could afford it. Thanos the End I got because I liked the front cover with all the characters on, and I flipped through it and saw the big double splash pages with loads of characters. And I saw characters like Hulk, Silver Surfman, and Captain Marbles, the real one, Genis-Vell, who I knew from New Thunderbells. I didn't really know who Thanos was. I think what I knew from Wikipedia. Basically the blurb of Affinity Gauntlets. That was the extent of my knowledge of Thanos. Initially, I was lukewarm on Thanos the End. I liked the first few parts when we had superheroes and a conventional superhero story with the Defenders teaming with Thanos. And then we also had the Mr. Doom subplot, which I loved and still love to this day. I felt the last two parts, the final two issues, where we wash away those things I like to have Thanos become the be-all and end-all of everything. Didn't care for it. However, I only had, a couple of trade paperbacks? So I reread Thanos the End loads and loads. I pored over those double splash pages, imagined all the different little scenarios ganning through the characters' heads as they rush into a battle they know they are unlikely to win. Speaking of, the Thunderbells appear alongside the gathered thousands, and the idea that fucking Cycle clone would actually take part in this is absurd. I did always like the first 3 or 4 issues. I loved the tone. I loved the hopelessness. I loved rooting for Mr. Doom and Thanos against a greater evil. Eventually, I finally came to understand the final 2 issues and Thanos and what was going on. Yeah, I think maybe even it did require me reading Jim Starman's other Thanos stories to really completely understand and appreciate what we have here. But yeah, that's my story. I have said before, I wore out my original copy of the trade paperback. I don't have it anymore. The binding was fucked. Cover was almost completely detached. What we have here though is Thanos alone in a void. A black void, unlike the white one on the cover. The whole thing is a fable of sorts. It is a combination of various works. It is Midas, it is Macbeth, little bit of Icarus, Pandora's Box, a lot of The Poisoned Chalice. I am sure Thanos could identify every single Odyssey that has been touched upon here. Didn't you know Shakespeare is even better when it is translated into Klingon? Now this is bullshit. This has always been bullshit. Alan Watson is alive. Fuck off, is he? They say, oh, he was off in another dimension when Thanos spitefully pissed away the universe. That is a lot of shite. Another dimension is still part of the universe. By the extent of eliminating eternity and affinity, if Thanos wills them away, of course he fucking obliterated everything. Dimensions are part of the universe. If you toss away a pair of jeans, the pockets don't somehow stay in your house. This is absolute bullshit. Why isn't Satan showing up and ganning, ha, you forgot L is a different dimension? Why isn't Tom Hiddleston showing up and ganning, ha, you forgot Fairyland is a different dimension too? Why isn't fucking the Space Pants Man showing up and ganning, ha, thanks for getting rid of Kurt Busey, maybe now I can be a character instead of a resource. Alan Watson is there because, fuck it, Jim Starman is too conscious to have Thanos talk to himself for however many pages we have left. There's no other reason. It's annoying to pull this bullshit because the character study of Thanos is great. Ultimately, this cautionary tale is man covets thing, man obtains thing, man realises thing isn't good, man must sacrifice in penance for his greed. That's the end. Literally, that is the end. The comic is called The End. Lot of criticism in this one, but I recommend it. I didn't give away the complete ending. It's good though. This miniseries means a lot to me, and it is canon. 7 thumbs up.